Hey everyone, welcome back to Bullish Books. I'm Lei, and today I want to share something that changed how I think about leadership and business success. Here's what most people get wrong. They think the most successful companies win because they have the smartest strategies, the best technology, or the deepest pockets. But when you actually study organizations that consistently outperform their competitors, you discover something surprising. What they really have is simple but rare. Their people genuinely care about each other's success, and they feel safe enough to bring their best selves to work every day. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds like corporate fluff, right? Just another consultant trying to sell feel-good ideas that don't actually move the needle. But here's the thing. This is a measurable competitive advantage. It shows up in innovation rates, customer satisfaction scores, employee retention, and ultimately, the bottom line. Simon Sinek's book, Leaders Eat Last, reveals why traditional leadership approaches fail so consistently, and more importantly, how to build organizations where people actually thrive. So let's dive into this concept that Sinek calls the circle of safety, and I'll share why this might be the most important leadership principle you'll ever learn. Think about it this way. Every organization faces external threats that are completely beyond our control. Market volatility, technological disruption, aggressive competitors, regulatory changes, economic downturns. These dangers will never disappear. But here's what most leaders miss. There's another category of threats that can be even more damaging, the ones that come from within. I'm talking about office politics, backstabbing colleagues, blame cultures, constant fear of layoffs, and leaders who prioritize their own advancement over their team's well-being. The difference is crucial. External threats, we can't control them. Internal threats, those are 100% within leadership's control. When leaders fail to address internal threats, something terrible happens. People waste enormous energy protecting themselves from their own colleagues instead of focusing on the external challenges that could actually harm the organization. Instead of watching the market, they're watching their backs. The circle of safety is what great leaders create to protect their people from these internal threats. Just like ancient warriors formed defensive circles with shields facing outward to protect the group from external enemies, effective leaders establish psychological safety that shields their people from internal dangers. And here's where this gets real. The phrase, "leaders eat last," comes directly from the U.S. Marine Corps, where officers literally eat after their troops in the mess hall. This isn't just some cute military tradition. It's practical leadership psychology that creates unbreakable bonds. Captain William Swenson earned the Medal of Honor in Afghanistan, and his story perfectly demonstrates this principle. During a brutal firefight, Swenson repeatedly ran into the kill zone to rescue wounded soldiers. But here's what's remarkable. It wasn't just him. His fellow Marines did the same thing, each one risking their lives for the others. This level of sacrifice doesn't happen by accident. It emerges from a culture where leaders consistently demonstrate that their people's welfare comes before their own comfort or career advancement. When team members see their leader genuinely putting their needs first, they naturally reciprocate with extraordinary effort and loyalty. Now let me share a personal story that taught me what happens when leaders do the opposite. 20 years ago, I worked as a teacher in a middle school under a principal who managed through fear and intimidation. Instead of being transparent about budget challenges, he kept everyone on edge with constant layoff threats. His daily refrain was, "We might have to let some people go." The impact was devastating. Teachers focused more energy on looking busy than being effective. Colleagues became competitors instead of collaborators. The quality of education suffered as stressed teachers prioritized job security over student success. The irony? His attempt to motivate through fear actually cost the school far more than transparent leadership would have. The constant turnover meant expensive recruitment and training cycles every single year. That experience taught me something crucial. When leaders fail to create safety, people naturally create their own protection, usually at the organization's expense. The principles approach didn't just harm individual well-being, it systematically weakened the organization's capability and performance. So why do some teams naturally collaborate while others fall apart? The answer lies in our biology. Understanding the chemistry of high-performance cultures is absolutely critical. Humans evolved with 4 primary chemicals that drive behavior. Endorphins help us push through pain and discomfort. Dopamine rewards achievement and goal completion. Most organizations stop here, focusing exclusively on individual performance. But they're missing the social chemicals that actually hold teams together. Serotonin is the leadership chemical, released when we feel respected and valued. It's triggered when others recognize our achievements publicly. This is what makes leaders want to serve their people rather than exploit them. Oxytocin is the trust chemical released through physical contact, eye contact, and acts of generosity. It builds the deep bonds that enable teams to function as unified groups rather than collections of individuals. This explains why handshakes matter, why face-to-face meetings accomplish more than video calls, and why small gestures of caring have such profound impacts. Let me give you a perfect example of this chemistry in action. During the 2008 financial crisis, Bob Chapman, CEO of Barry-Wehmiller, faced a brutal reality. His manufacturing company could no longer afford to keep all their employees. For most companies, the solution would seem obvious: lay off enough people to balance the books. But Chapman refused to sacrifice people simply because the company was having a difficult year. He had come to see his company as a family. As he put it, we would never dream of getting rid of one of our children in hard times. Instead of layoffs, Chapman implemented a mandatory furlough program where every employee, from CEO to secretary, would take 4 weeks of unpaid time off. Listen to how he announced this. It is better that we all suffer a little, so that none of us has to suffer a lot. The response was extraordinary. Barry-Wehmiller employees spontaneously began helping each other. Those who could better afford the unpaid time traded shifts with colleagues who needed the income more. Many took additional unpaid time beyond what was required, just to help someone else. When conditions improved, Chapman not only restored the suspended 401k contributions, but backpaid them to when the tough times began. This is what happens when leaders understand the chemistry. Chapman's approach triggered massive releases of serotonin and oxytocin throughout the organization. People felt valued and protected, even during crisis. The result? Intense loyalty and engagement that few organizations ever achieve. Now here's where many leaders go wrong. Modern business culture's obsession with metrics creates a dangerous tendency to lose sight of the human beings behind the numbers. When leaders focus exclusively on abstract data, they often make decisions that optimize short-term metrics while harming the people who actually create long-term value. The Peanut Corporation of America learned this the hard way. Executives, facing pressure to meet financial targets, knowingly shipped salmonella-contaminated peanut products. They convinced themselves that numbers were what mattered. The result? 9 deaths, hundreds of illnesses, criminal charges, and complete bankruptcy. When leaders lose sight of the people their decisions affect, they often end up destroying the very businesses they're trying to protect. So, what does this mean for you? Here's the truth. Leadership isn't reserved for people with corner offices and executive titles. Every team member can contribute to creating a circle of safety through their daily actions and choices. You don't need permission to show genuine care for colleagues. You don't need authority to share credit for successes or take responsibility for problems. You don't need a title to model the behaviors you want to see from others. Leadership often happens through small daily choices rather than grand gestures. Checking on a colleague who seems stressed, speaking up when something doesn't feel right, taking time to explain decisions and gather input, celebrating others' successes genuinely, offering help without being asked. These seemingly minor actions create ripple effects throughout organizations. One person's kindness inspires another's generosity. One person's integrity encourages another's honesty. One person's courage enables another's innovation. So here's my challenge to you. Start by genuinely caring about the people around you. Learn their names, understand their challenges, and look for opportunities to support their success. When someone makes a mistake, ask, how can we prevent this in the future? Instead of, who's responsible? When someone succeeds, celebrate publicly and share credit generously. Create psychological safety by admitting your own mistakes openly and encouraging others to bring forward problems without fear. Invest time in developing people's skills, even if they might eventually leave for better opportunities. These actions might seem small, but they compound over time into organizational cultures that attract top talent, inspire extraordinary performance, and create sustainable competitive advantages. The choice is yours. Will you be a leader people follow because they have to, or because they want to? Will you extract value from people or invest in their success? Will you contribute to fear or build trust? As Simon Sinek reminds us, true leadership is about doing little things for the good of others, one day at a time. Let us all be the leaders we wish we had. Thanks for listening. If you want to dive deeper into these leadership principles, check out the full article on bullishbooks.com. And if this resonated with you, share it with someone who could benefit from these ideas. Until next time, keep building something worth belonging to.